Hello, everyone. Here talking today about organizational structures. I work for Kansas Wesleyan University in the IT department. Um, I'll zoom in a little bit on each parts of my organization structure that I have put here on my flowchart, but just to start talk about Kansas Wesleyan in general, sort of runs as a functional structure in which it's divided into groups by roles, responsibilities, and specialties. We have our IT department, we have a department for security, we have obviously departments for um, each of the degrees. We have departments for admissions, departments for student development. So we have just generalized departments that all serve their own purpose. They all have their own expectations, and a lot of them are sort of have their own specializations, especially the more technical departments. So I'll sort of just scroll in here a little bit. So we start here at the head of our flowchart is going to be the Board of Trustees. They're the ones that tell the president this is what needs to happen. They meet about once a month, and for about a 3-hour board meeting just to find out what's going on in the university and make those decisions. Underneath that, we got the president of the university. The president, um, next to him, has his assistant. His assistant is not directly below him, as in he's as high as the vice president's, but the assistant to the president only reports to the president. She's been here about 30 years, so she's about at what we'll look at later to be the role of a director. And then as we zoom out, so there are six, I believe, five or six. There are five vice presidents, or what would be considered vice presidents. We have our provost, who's sort of like the vice president for faculty or academia, the vice president of student development, vice president of university operations, our chief financial officer, which is sort of like our vice president of money, I guess, of the business. And then the director of athletics, also known as the VP of athletics. So if we start with provost, directly below the provost, but above the faculty members, we have the academic dean, who also acts as a sort of superior for the faculty members. Faculty is just broken up into three different groups. We have our department chairs, who oversee the faculty, and then each faculty in their division, and then below that we have the adjuncts, who just teach one or two classes here, and that's all they do. I will say, for our institution, the only difference between an adjunct and faculty is the number of classes they teach. Faculty teach between 3 to 5 classes, and adjuncts teach one class. Some teach two, but not very often. Our university is not a research university, so none of the professors at our university deal with any of that, any research. Also under the provost is the library on campus, and then with the library we have a student success center, and there is a coordinator for the student success center. He doesn't really have anybody he oversees. He does have some tutors, which are work studies that work underneath him sometimes, but for the most part he sort of takes care of the tutoring by himself during the day. The VP of Student Development really has three big departments under her. There are more departments, but for purposes of space, I would have had to make at least 8 under each of these VPs, but these are the main departments underneath them. The first department being the residence hall and student living. Student living, the top of there is the residence director. We have 3 of them that oversee each residence hall. We have 3 residence halls. And then we have, once again, work studies, the resident assistants or RAs, who are underneath each respective resident director. The student development, biggest part about it is the student development department itself. And that has a coordinator for career services. There's there's intramural coordinators in there, but all those coordinators are at the same level. And then the last thing under the student development is the student dining services. General manager would be the top there. And then we have assistant managers for each of the dining areas. We have an assistant manager for our cafeteria and an assistant manager for our what we call the den, which is our dining and our student activity center. We don't have separate restaurants, we just have the den, and they're all managed by Sodexo, which is it's a catering company that works a lot with universities. And then just cafeteria staff is going to be directly below that assistant manager position. If you notice, it's just like that functional structure. We have specialized departments. We got one for food, we got one for student development, we got one for student living, and that's going to be sort of the theme as we move through here. The VP of University Operations, his main areas we've got are going to be admissions and recruitment, which we got a director for that. And then we got coordinators. We got a coordinator for new students coming out of high school. I don't remember exactly what that coordinator is called. We have a coordinator for just specifically transfer students or continuing education. Below those coordinators are going to be the admissions counselors, and each admission counselor sort of has their own area, their own geographical area that they take care of, which the coordinators will determine what that is. And then tour guides are going to be, once again, just like most people that are at the bottom of the chain, they're students who are showing other prospective students around. Director of Advancement and Development, that director deals specifically with getting money for the university, and then they have assistant to the advancement below that director, and that assistant to the advancement also supports the admission counselors and delegates tasks to them. And then we got marketing and communication, what we call Marcom. There's the director for that, and he's got two groups of staff underneath him, the graphic designers and the communication specialists. Moving on, we got the financial officer. Our financial officer deals with more departments really than anybody else. She's got financial aid. We got a director for that, followed by, we also have an assistant director of financial aid. And below the assistant director, we have sort of two groups, the registrars and assistant registrar, and then the financial aid specialist. Department I'm in, director, we have a director for information technology. Just below that is my position, the lead IS technician. And I have a lead IT technician below me. We sort of work in tandem together, but I do take care of his scheduling and making sure he's on task. And then we both have our work studies that we use below us. The business office doesn't have a director per se because the business office is actually ran by our CFO, our chief financial officer. But she has some account specialists and payroll clerks below her in there. Everybody in the business office really is on the same level with the exception of the CFO who's also in there. The human resource specialist, she's sort of we only have one human resources person, so she's sort of in a category by herself. She reports to the CFO, but she does everything you would expect a human resources department to do. Very busy woman, and she does a lot. And then Yodi's is our on-campus store. We have a director for that. She's also the director for the mailroom, so she sort of does a dual task. She does have one graduate assistant who assists her, and that mainly he sticks around Yodi's, but for the most part, she oversees him while he takes care of Yodi's. And the last VP would be the VP of Athletics or Director of Athletics. He's got his director below him. We got athletic recruiting. He's got a director for that. And the admissions counselors, these are the same admissions counselors that the VP of University Operations oversees. So they're sort of under two areas. Athletic trainers. Athletic training is another department, and there's just athletic trainers there. There's no really director for that. And then we have the actual athletics parts, which we have the associate athletic director, which is below the director of athletics, and then head coaches, assistant coaches, and all the support coaches like offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, all those things. There is one other area that's left, and that is our plant operations. They are not under any of these five vice presidents. He reports directly to the president of the university. However, he is not at the same level as a vice president. He is paid and seen as a director. So if any of the other VPs tell him to do something, he's still expected to do it, but he reports directly to the president. Below him is the assistant director of plant operations, and then all of their staff are on the same level, but they have 3 different departments within plant operations. We got custodians who are sort of essentially just, general cleaning, empty trash, sweeping, mopping, all that type of stuff for the whole campus. Groundskeepers, landscapers, they do the mowing, tree limb removal, all that type of stuff. And then maintenance, which handles, changing out light bulbs, changing filters on the water fountain, putting in new doors, all that type of stuff. And that is the bulk of how our university runs. Once again, I'd call it like a functional model. We have a bunch of different departments with all their own specialities, and then they're all under a director and then under a vice president, followed by the president. Yeah, thanks for listening. Have a wonderful day.